Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and welcome to Season 25 of Pokemon Go Battle League. As with every new season, a ton has changed, so let's just hop right into it. Today we're taking a look at Gorgggeist, a Pokemon that becomes the first non-fire type in Go to learn Incinerate, and its charge move Shadow Ball just got cheaper. These changes catapult Gorgggeist to potential anti-meta or maybe even meta status. Today I'm using Large Gorgeist, which is actually preferred to the Super Gorgeist because Large Gorgeist gets some really nice bulk points. For the team I ran, I think Gourgeist plus Blastoise is solid, but being ABA weak to Ice was a mistake. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and we're off to a terrible start in game number 1. Our first game of the season is against Dan Ottawa, and he has us completely core broken with a Blaziken lead. I safe switch into Blastoise, and I know that Aura Sphere is going to inflict some serious damage. He's going to be sending out a Azumarill, and I really wish that I had Skull Bash in this moment. I specifically TM'd Skull Bash away to Ice Beam because I wanted Blastoise to not be walled by opposing Gourgeist or Trevenant. But unfortunately, I ended up having a lot of Azumarill switch in, so my Ice Beam didn't really amount to much. I'm going to look to farm up a ton of energy on the Blastoise, and unfortunately, I basically just have to sacrifice the Gourgeist in game number 1. I am incredibly weak to Blaziken on this team, so if there's any chance of me ever doing anything in this game, it's going to be by using Gourgeist as a damage sponge and trying to sweep with the massive amount of energy that I have on Blastoise. In comes Credilli. Credilli will be able to outpace the Azumarill, so I'm just going to look to take the knockout. I don't want Azumarill to be able to pressure a shield. Grass Knot lands, taking the KO. In the back is Galarian Corsola, and things are looking very, very tough for me here. I know I have a ton of energy loaded on that Blastoise, but man, this is going to be a really tough game because Corsola is just so bulky. I really don't want to burn a shield here. I probably should have, because if I don't shield the first, I'm going to have to shield the second. I continue to overfarm with the Credilli, hoping to try and put it into range where maybe I can get it into Grass Knot KO range. So I farm up to the back-to-back charge attacks on Credilli, firing off the Grass Knot. Grass Knot is going to be no shielded. Quick switch into Blastoise, and Blastoise is going to be answered with the Blaziken. Blaziken now runs Ember this season, and Ember has very fast pacing, but notably has basically no fast move pressure. So even though the Blastoise is so low, Blaziken can just never farm down. And look at all this stored energy from earlier. I stalled out the mid game, saved all the energy, and guess what? It's gonna win me this game against all odds, despite terrible alignment throughout. Hydro Cannon takes the knockout. In comes Corsola, but we survive the Astonish on Credilli. Grass Knot takes the knockout, and that's a good game. Hopping into the next match, leading Gourgeist into Shadow Scizor. What a lead. This is what Gourgeist is hunting for. Opponent stays in. They see it now has Incinerate. They pivot out and send in Ludicolo. Learning Ludicolo counts was a bit of a rough time for me today, as I wasn't aware of its energy cost for its charge moves, and that did end up costing me a few games. I definitely feel like I threw a lot of games today, but in addition, if I ran the team back, I think I would run something other than Credilli, just because being ABA weak to Ice in a meta that suddenly has a lot of Ice damage, I think does have its weaknesses. Credilli going to be met with the Shadow Scizor, but Shadow Scizor does not get the farm down. Credilli's Rock Tomb is going to be pressuring a shield, and now I get to send back in the Gourgeist. In the back, they have a Azumarill, and this is the kind of core that was so strong in previous seasons, but now gets torn to smithereens by Gourgeist, as Gourgeist completely invalidates a lot of the Shadow Scizor plus water cores, unless that water type is named Feraligatr. Seed Bombs rock the Azumarill. I try and go for a bit of a fancy Ice Beam catch. The catch doesn't work out, but we're still just so far ahead that it's not going to matter. Play Rough is going to land. I'm just going to go for Cap Tie on the next Play Rough. Opponent actually makes a catch onto the Shadow Scizor, but they need Scizor's energy, so they're forced to burn a shield. Blastoise going to be no shielding. Even if they do take the knockout here, that's very okay, but it is just a Night Slash. Night Slash, not going to take the KO. I get myself as low as humanly possible and fire off the Hydro. Hydro Cannon will finally KO the Scizor. Back in comes Gourgeist, and it looks like I will not be getting my 2-shield flex today. Although in hindsight, maybe I could have survived that Ice Beam, because Azu doesn't hit very hard. So in hindsight, I think I actually could have got the 2-shield flex, but either way, I'll still take 1 shield remaining and the win. Great lead in the next match, Gourgeist into Blastoise. Unless they're on Ice Beam like me, they are completely walled. I'm going to stay in and farm up energy. Opponent safe switches into Furret, and I'm just going to hold on to all that energy and send in Credilli. Credilli is going to do a pretty nice job at handling Furret. Furret is a Pokemon that this team is ABA weak to, but I feel like more often than not, Furret is on the safe switch, so I was pretty much accepting the fact that if I saw a Furret lead, it'd be a tricky game, but Gourgeist does wall Furret's energy, so Gourgeist can at least get the Furret low, and hopefully set up the Blastoise to sweep in the back. My opponent goes for a Trailblaze, but it does not let them get the farm down. Credilli barely able to hang on. Rock Tomb forces the final shield, and that is very, very nice. Now I can bring in the Blastoise and just look to farm up. My opponent does have a ton of energy loaded on their Blastoise. That's something that I will have to watch for. Blastoise looks to overfarm. Opponent tries for a snipe with their Blastoise. Oh my goodness. Did we catch a Skull Bash? No, we did not. They baited with the Hydro Cannon. That would have been an unbelievable catch, but sadly it's not to be. The good news is we still wall their energy. I'm at 100 energy, so I may as well just throw an alignment here. Seed Bomb gets them low, and then I can throw one more Incinerate, and now I exit this matchup with the Seed Bomb loaded. I think I've burned my switch timer as well, so the moment they bring in the Furret, I'm just going to switch into the Blastoise and snipe them down with a Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon into the Furret is going to land. Furret barely hangs on. In the back, they have Florges, so they were just completely ABA weak to Gourgeist. Gourgeist walls the typical Florges moveset, which of course is going to be Chilling Water and Trailblaze. I'm able to make it to another Hydro. I'm just throwing this energy instantly. Hydro lands onto the Florges. Furret gets rollouted down, and we're able to take another win. We move to the next match, leading Gorgggeist into a Doublade. Pretty cool lead. We're both hitting each other for super effective damage. Doublade's going to be switching out, sending in a Florges. Oh my goodness. I think they should have just stayed in with the Doublade. At the very least, Doublade would have been able to hit for super effective with the Shadow Claws. But if this Florges is on the standard Chilling Water plus Trailblaze, then they're just completely walled. And they are. So they will be able to apply a lot of debuffs onto this Gorgeist. But I'm pretty okay with that, because I'm still able to exit this matchup with quite a bit of energy. So I'm going to be farming up to the back-to-back Seed Bombs, looking to take the knockout, and then pivoting out into the Blastoise. My opponent's going to be sending in their final Pokemon. It's Shadow Celio. I bank the Shadow Ball, and I switch into the Blastoise. My opponent's going to bank energy as well. They send back in the Doublade. Doublade, it does have Sacred Sword now. It is Shadow Claw and Sacred Sword. Sacred Sword is a very good attack. But Sacred Sword is also a 35 energy move, so it doesn't do a ton of damage when it doesn't get same type attack bonus. So for Blastoise, I'm very happy to let this go. Hydro Cannon is going to land. Doublade continues to farm. Doublade misremembered my energy. They thought I had one more rollout than I did, and they try and go for the CMP tie. Sacred Sword is going to land. Oh, they make a really nice play, and they snipe with the Celio. Also, I said Sacred Sword landed. It did not land. I put up the shield, and now I send in Credilli. This is where that ABA weakness to ice is a little bit uncomfortable. Celio fires off the Surf. That does quite a lot of damage, and I'm going to look to take the knockout with the Rock Tomb. Celio, they're just going to take way too much damage. They're forced to put up the shield, and they fire off their charge attack instantly. I do have a move banked on my Gourgeist, so I'm good. I bring in the Gourgeist, and I should have clicked Shadow Ball. I forgot I banked it. I thought I only had the Seed Bomb, and that misplay is actually going to cost me my first loss of the season. Had I thrown that Shadow Ball, I could have taken the knockout, and then the energy from the Blastoise, I could have fired off at the Celio. But unfortunately, I just misplayed. I misremembered where my energy was at, and that's going to be a loss. We move to the next match, and that's not the lead we're hoping to see. Gourgeist into Walrein. The team-building decision to run a team ABA weak to Ice is definitely coming back to bite me. But the Blastoise save switch gets answered with a Trevenant. This is where Ice Beam is going to be clutch. Ice Beam gets respected by the Trevenant. Oh my goodness. So unfortunately, we didn't have Skull Bash when they switched to Nazu, and I have Ice Beam for the Trev counter switch, but unfortunately, Trev ends up putting up the shield, and now things are looking very difficult. I'm expecting my opponent will think that I'll go for a bait here, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to be firing off the Ice Beam. The Ice Beam is going to land as my opponent tries to call a bait, and now back in comes the Walrein. I'm more than happy to fire off this Hydro Cannon on alignment. I just need whatever damage I can get onto the Walrein. Walrein, gonna need an Earthquake here. I could have potentially done two, waited a turn, and tried to catch an Earthquake onto Gourgeist. I think that would have been the better play, as that way I could have saved the Blastoise, because with all their overfarm on the Walrein, they're actually able to outpace the Gourgeist, make it to an Icicle Spear, and that does huge damage this season. Walrein, my goodness. Seed Bomb into the Walrein will take the knockout in the back. It's Sableye, and this is another Pokemon that I'm really excited for this season. Sableye, extra damage with Foul Play, and unfortunately, there's just no path forward for me in this game. I fire off the Rock Tomb, but this is the non-Shadow Sableye. I'm going to be trying out the Shadow when I do, but after I see how little damage the Rock Tomb does, I will exit the match. Decent lead in the next match, leading into Doublade. My opponent brings out the Spice as they save switch into Milotic. Milotic is going to be spamming out its new charge attack, Aqua Tail. And Aqua Tail is going to inflict some pretty solid damage, considering it gets same type attack bonus, and it's from a Shadow Milotic. So just like that, Milotic has gotten me very, very low on the Credilli. I wasn't really expecting Aqua Tail to do quite this much. My Lotad puts up the shield. They will be able to flip switch advantage if they want to, but I'm pretty okay with them flipping switch because my only catastrophically bad matchup into that Pokemon is of course going to be the Credilli, which is already getting KO'd. So Credilli gets farmed down, Doublade's only real target is now off the field, which is great, and my opponent will fire off energy. I do wall my Lotad, they go for a wrap, and now I can go for the Seed Bomb. Seed Bomb easily going to be knocking them out, and then they have to decide, are they bringing in the Doublade? No, they're bringing out Morgrem. That's a very cool pick. Morgrem going to be chipped down with a Seed Bomb, hoping this will put it into Hydro Cannon range, and now Blastoise hits the field. Between a Morgrem Foul Play and a Sacred Sword from Doublade, I think the Foul Play will do more. So I put up the shield, and I just fire off the Hydro. My opponent catches on a Doublade, but this is where Doublade, not having the greatest stats, will backfire. Because look at this, the rollouts plus the Hydro Cannons will actually be able to knock them out. My opponent will get to connect with a Sacred Sword. Sacred Sword does do okay damage, but as long as I'm 2 rollouts away from the move, I'll be able to outpace the Morgrem by 2 turns and win the game. So, back in comes the Morgrem. Morgrem unfortunately falls short of the energy needed. Blastoise, very consistent. Hydro Cannon takes the knockout and secures the win. We move to the next game, Gourgeist into Ludicolo. This is a pretty bad lead. I'm going to save switch into Blastoise. My opponent is going to be sending out a Volt Switch Fortress. Now that's something that we did see run in the Open Great League a little bit last season, so it's pretty cool to see the Volt Switch Fortress here. Hydro Cannon is going to land, dealing some pretty solid damage, and at the very least I will be able to get a shield advantage out of this mid-game. Hydro Cannon is going to get the shield. My opponent forced to fire off energy. I'm hoping if they Rock Tomb I can barely hang on here, but I cannot. Blastoise unable to hang on. In comes the Gourgeist. Gourgeist at the very least will get a very nice aggressive farm down. Rock Tomb comes out from the fortress. In comes Ludicolo. They're able to save that fortress, which is a little bit unfortunate. Now, I alluded earlier that I'm not too familiar with the counts on Ludicolo. So I shield up, and I'm pretty sure I'm safe to do 4 in the move. So when they throw here, I'm pretty confident that it can only be a Weather Ball. But it cannot. It's the Leaf Storm, and that's going to cost me this game. I just lose way too much health. Had I put up the shield, I think I would have been fine, but I was unfamiliar with the counts. They bring in Fortress. I bank as much energy as possible, and it's Shadow Walrein in the back. So if I had double shielded, I was so fine. But unfortunately, I did not. I farmed up as much energy as possible on the Credilli, so if I'm 2 off of the back-to-back on Credilli, I actually win this game, but I knew I was 3 off. I intentionally don't CMP tie there, expecting them to throw, so that way I do get 1 acid while only taking 1 damage from the shielded move, but I would have to be 1 acid away from the back-to-back, and I am not. So, unfortunately, that new pacing on Ludicolo messed me up a little bit there, and that did lose me the game. Bad lead in the next match, Gourgeist into Regidrago. I save switch into Blastoise, and the good news for me is I have Ice Beam. So I'm going to be putting up the shield, and I'm going to be smacking them with an Ice Beam if they stay in. There's the Dragon Energy. My opponent going to be sending out Licky Licky. Licky Licky is a Pokemon that will now be running Shadow Ball. A Shadow Ball being 50 energy means Licky Licky gets it every 4 rollouts. So this will be the Shadow Ball from Licky Licky. Blastoise more than happy to absorb this damage, and then look to return fire with the Hydro Cannons. I would love if Regidrago brought back in here and tried to go for a farm down, because obviously I have Ice Beam, and Ice Beam is going to seriously add up. I'm going to be CMP tying the Licky Licky, taking the knockout. Come on, bring in the Drago, and they do. Blastoise. Oh, they CMP tie the Blastoise. I can't get my Ice Beam, and that is unfortunate. Vice Grip takes the KO, and now in comes Credilli. I still don't know what they have in the back, and that is definitely worrisome. Regidrago will get to connect with the Dragon Energy, and that leaves a serious mark. I farm up just a little bit and fire off this Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb at the Regidrago is going to get them low. In the back, they have Tentacruel. Now, Tentacruel this season did get access to a new move, which is Payback. And that is a pretty big problem considering that I am a Ghost type. So I send in Gourgeist, but I'm honestly not feeling great about the scenario. However, I do have them debuffed, so at the very least, my opponent will have to throw a debuffed move, and that could potentially be the win con for me, as I think I can survive a debuffed Payback. Shadow Ball does get shielded. My opponent's switch timer is up, and that's bad news for me. But I win charge attack priority, and I'm going to get to land my Shadow Ball. Let's go, Gourgeist. Shadow Ball lands. It doesn't KO! Oh no, Tentacruel bulkier than expected in the Great League. Payback takes the knockout, and Credilli doesn't have the residual energy needed. GG's to Marto. Unfortunately, it was a really tough game from the start, and we couldn't quite pull out the win. hopping into the final match, and this team was a crazy one. So I lead into Galarian Weezing, and I'm expecting, okay, Galarian Weezing lead, catastrophically weak to Scizor. So they should have some very good Pokemon in the back against Scizor. So when they bring it in a Azumarill, I'm thinking, okay, this just doesn't make any sense because Azumarill gets destroyed by Scizor, Weezing gets destroyed to Scizor, but they have like a Talonflame or something in the back. My opponent just gonna look to take the knockout here with the Play Rough. They throw instantly. I'm walled because I don't have Skull Bash, and I'm forced to bring out the Credilli. Credilli gonna look to farm up a ton of energy. I could have thrown the Grass Knot, but I think the energy will actually be more valuable. So they will go for the Ice Beam. I'm gonna farm up, and here I thought about undercharging, but my worry was if I undercharge, they can switch out and then potentially make a move into the Gorgeist later on. My opponent brings in their own Credilli, and they are triple weak to Shadow Scizor. Now, don't get me wrong, I wanted a Scizor nerf, but unfortunately, it did not happen, so Scizor is definitely still a Pokemon. My opponent, they switch out the Credilli, resetting that attack drop and bring in the Weezing. And unfortunately, with Weezing's energy head start, I think I'm in quite a bit of trouble. I will put up the shield as Weezing goes for the Sludge, firing off the Rock Tomb. I'm down 2 shields to 0 here. The Rock Tomb gets no shielded, and in comes Credilli. I'm going to look to bank some energy on my Credilli and then pivot into the Gorgeist. This way, I'm pretty close to a move on Credilli for later. Gorgeist, going to be spamming out the back-to-back Seed Bombs here, just looking to try and land some damage onto my opponent. I'm at -1, but Seed Bomb will still be getting them pretty low. At this point, I had lost count of their residual energy, so I was worried that if I tried to throw an Incinerate in the move, that they would outpace. They fire off energy, I've completely lost count, and it all comes down to this. Can I outpace with my Credilli? I bring in my Credilli, and I'm able to outpace their Credilli and take the win. I think I played that game very poorly, but somehow, Gorgeist and Credilli able to fight back and take the win. And now some final thoughts on Incinerate Gourgeist. I think Incinerate Gourgeist will make it very difficult to find good core pairings for Pokemon like Shadow Scizor and Fortress this season, as a lot of the times, at least in the previous seasons, those Pokemon really thrived on getting paired with ground types. But ground types also just get completely destroyed by Gourgeist. I do acknowledge that Gourgeist is obviously going to have weaknesses of its own. Being weak to ice in a meta where Walrein is suddenly very strong is a definite negative, but I think with better team building and not being ABA weak to ice, and as well as me not throwing quite a few games like I did on stream, then I actually quite liked Gourgeist. I think Gourgeist is very solid. I think I would trend towards it being anti-meta rather than meta, but I think Gourgeist is absolutely a Pokemon that you can put on your team and get some pretty solid wins with, because its coverage is unlike anything we've seen before, as we've seen Grass Ghosts, but not with the ability to just absolutely destroy Shadow Scizor. So I'm a big fan of Gourgeist. I really enjoyed it. Obviously, I know it's day 1 battles, so I ended up having to cut out some like underpowered Pokemon from opponents and stuff like that, but all in all, pretty solid, fun day 1 team. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not. And an extra special thank you, as always, to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.